Presence of an absurdity here today. Let us not forget it is much, much worse for the Palestinian people of Gaza after Israel has torn up the ceasefire it itself signed up to and renewed its onslaught with additional barbarism. Let us never forget that whatever challenges we are facing here, they are as nothing to those facing the heroic Palestinian people. And I can speak, I am sure, for all of us, if I say that no amount of harassment from the police or from politicians is going to break this movement or is going to stop us from marching and demonstrating and protesting by all means possible in support of the Palestinian people. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Andrew. I'm now going to ask Louise Regan, who's a member of the National Education Union National Executive and chair of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, to say something.
Had pressure from the very beginning of the assault on Gaza, from the police and from governments to stop us. They have intimidated us, they've tried to intimidate us, they have tried to silence us. But we have never allowed ourselves to be silenced, and we have never allowed ourselves to be intimidated. And it is more important now than ever.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed. I will be very short. There are lots of wise people here who can say much more interesting things like what I would like to say. But I just want to mention a practical issue. This business of Stephen breaking through the police line. It doesn't make any sense. He's older than I am, and I couldn't break through a police line in Trafalgar Square, and I'm sure he can't either. So this excuse of bringing him in just does not make any sense. I wish him a long life, but I know that he passed the stage that he can break through any line, physically, let alone a police line. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. It's very, very important.
Stephen, of course, stands in a long line of Jewish, anti-Zionist, socialist radicals, going right back to the Bund at the turn of the last century, the beginning of the last century, when they warned the Zionists then that if they pursued their aims of establishing a Jewish ethnocentric state and taking land from the Palestinians, who of course already lived there with their own extensive civilization, that would end up with reproducing the racism that they purported to oppose. And of course that warning, all those decades and decades ago, was tragically right, because Israel is riven with racism in its own society. My legal partner is also the daughter of a Holocaust survivor, so we have a commitment in this game, and we know what we're up against. The right wing of the Zionists in the formation of Israel, the use of a number of terrorist Jewish, at that time, terrorist gangs, the Irgun gang and the Stern gang. They were specialists in taking out, in assassinating people who opposed them. And on the top of their list were socialist anti-Zionists. So we've been here a long time. And Starmer is playing that game by continuing to supply arms to Israel, by reeling back Lamy when he actually called out quite correctly the blockade of Gaza of food and water and medicines as a crime against humanity. We're in a big and serious struggle for free speech here, and as we say, we will not give up. until all of the land is all free for all of us. From the river to all of the sea, we will all be free.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea. Mark Atkins, welcome.
Hello everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm not Stephen's son, but I am a son of another Holocaust survivor who passed away 5 years ago or so. He was in the Łódź ghetto, Buchenwald, and other places. He was from Poland. And I was overwhelmed when I first met Stephen, because most of my father's passed away, most of his friends have passed away. Of course, survivors of the camps, the vast majority have passed away now. So I wasn't expecting a survivor to be healthy enough, brave enough to speak out against the ongoing genocide in Gaza. I assumed it would just be those of us, sons and daughters, grandchildren of survivors. Keir Starmer, back in September, I don't know whether anyone recalls, he gave a talk to the Holocaust Education Trust back in September. He spoke about survivors, how he was listening to them. He mentioned the Windermere children. My father was one of them. He came over here in 45, was very lucky to be able to come to Britain, otherwise he'd have ended up in Israel. And Starmer said we should listen to Holocaust survivors. He went so far as to say that every school student has to listen to school survivors in the national curriculum. He said it again and again. And yet when a Holocaust survivor speaks out and says something that he disagrees with, he says we shouldn't be listening to them. In fact, more than that, he authorizes or allows the police to persecute him, this survivor. I mean, there's no word to describe the hypocrisy and the dishonesty of this government and the way they treat people. Absolutely abominable. So I don't know when Stephen's going to be turning up. Hopefully we'll give him a huge cheer. And hopefully he won't spend too long in the police station. And thank you again for coming.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to ask Chris Nynham to speak. You'll know Chris has been the chief steward on most of the national demonstrations that we've held, and many before that. He's a very experienced steward, knows what he's doing, knows how to keep people safe, but disgracefully he was violently arrested on January the 18th and is still facing criminal charges arising from that. So I'm sure you're going to give Chris a big welcome. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Alex, and well done for everyone for being here today. I want to start just by saluting the courage of Stephen Kapos, who's going to be arriving in the next few minutes. And I'd like everyone, first of all, to give the man a massive round of applause for being so courageous, for being at the front of the protest on January the 18th, for being on the demonstrations month after month and week after week. Give him a big round of applause before he comes. I do have to say, I think it is an extraordinary day in British politics when a Holocaust survivor is being called in to the police station to be questioned about a peaceful protest against genocide.
Harassment.
I mean, we should just let that sink in, that very fact. And what makes it more extraordinary, more bizarre, and more sinister, really, is that the argument that the police are trying to use to justify their clampdown on our protests is that in some way they are a threat to Jewish people, in some way they are anti-Semitic. This despite the fact that there are hundreds of Jewish people at every single one of these demonstrations. There are speakers from the Jewish community on the demonstrations, that there are always either Stephen or other Jewish people at the front of the protest and the demonstrations when they take place. And despite the fact that millions of Jewish people around the world oppose what Israel is doing to the Palestinian people. And I think it's very important that we take on this argument. We take on this set of lies because they are being used. They are a tissue of lies. It's a fabrication that our protests are in any way a threat to Jewish people. In fact, the police are unable to come up with a single instance on any of the protests of any Jewish person, or for that matter anyone else, being threatened by someone on our demonstrations. The whole thing is a fabrication. It's an attempt to create an argument that is being used to seriously curtail, to seriously challenge, to seriously threaten the right of protest and freedom of assembly in this country. And I tell you, the Palestinian movement, the Palestine movement is first, along with the environmental movement. But this is a threat, this is a serious challenge to any movement, to the trade unions, to those fighting cuts, to those challenging racism, to anyone who dissents to the direction this government wants to take this country in. And we have to take it very, very seriously, and we have to continue our campaign. And I want to say, just to end on, that means a number of different things. I think it does mean continuing to challenge the narrative publicly of what happened on January the 18th. A number of other people have been called into the police station. Ben and I are facing a trial probably on the 7th, 8th and 9th of July. I think we have to win this case, because the outcome of this case will have an impact on how the police feel and how the police deal with our protests and others. The other thing we have to do is that when our freedom of expression, when our freedom of assembly is under challenge, we have to double down on exercising it. We have to intensify our efforts to mobilise in the streets for Palestine, and of course on a whole range of other issues. That means the demonstration tomorrow, the protest tomorrow outside the Israeli embassy is crucially important, but that means as well we've got to continue the protest. We will be announcing a programme of events over the next 2 months in the run-up to Nakba Day, the Nakba Day demonstration on the 17th of May. We want to make sure that this is a movement that is growing, that is expanding. It's already unprecedented. It needs to grow deeper. It needs to be built into every community, every school, every workplace, up and down the country, because we, as others have said, we are not going anywhere. We will not be intimidated by this crackdown, but also we are absolutely committed as a movement, as activists up and down this country, to keep mobilising, to stay in the streets until Palestine is free. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris. And obviously we shouldn't forget that the background to the demonstration we had on January the 18th was the fact that the police put an exclusion order around the BBC and effectively banned us from assembling anywhere near the BBC on the spurious grounds that it was near a synagogue and we were disrupting people who wished to attend the synagogue. We've met at the BBC several times, other demonstrators have met at the BBC, but now it seems that the police want to protect the BBC from hearing the voice of the people and hearing criticism from them about the way they're reporting some of the events in Gaza. So the fact that we can no longer go to the BBC, it seems, is another outrage that our movement is facing. And as Chris said, our demonstrations, we've had 25 national demonstrations now, and then hundreds of thousands of people have attended some of them. The number of arrests on those demonstrations is in single figures on each one. There are fewer arrests when we have 200,000 people than there are when 50,000 people attend Arsenal football matches or football matches elsewhere. There are probably fewer arrests on our demonstrations than there are in Oxford Street on any given Saturday. Our marches are peaceful, they're orderly, they're well stewarded, and they cause disruption, but we don't cause hate and we don't bring violence to the streets as other people are suggesting. So it's really important that we keep repeating that message, that we are for peace. We don't intend to bring hate. We don't bring hate to the streets of London. It's other people Other people are who are doing that in the most vile ways. It's not us. We are for peace and justice for the Palestinian people. So we are expecting Stephen any minute now.
Can I say a couple of things? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to say something. Okay, I'm going to say two things. I left the Labour Party because Stephen Kapos was denied the right to speak on Holocaust Memorial Day. So I have a particular bond for this guy. And I just wanted to say something about the larger environment of clamping down on academic protest in universities, in colleges and schools, with students having injunctions pulled out against them. Cambridge University failed in an attempt to get an injunction on students for 5 years, protesting in front of Senate House against the genocide in Gaza. You know, it is outrageous. So the broad, you know, this is terrible, a terrible clampdown on Stephen's personal freedom and Chris's, but it is in a really, really evil, pernicious environment that is growing unless we find a way to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you.
One, we are the people. Two, we will be silent. Three, stop the bombing now, 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 now. One, we are the people. Two, we will be silent. Three, stop the bombing now, 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 now. Free, free, Palestine. Free, free, Palestine. Free, free, Palestine. Free, free, Palestine. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the sea to the river.
Defend Stephen Kapos! 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 Occupation no more! 5, 6, 7, 8! Israel is a terrorist state!
I couldn't get all this lovely gentleman sign. Nice jumper as well, but I haven't quite caught it.
What does it say?
It's just there. Oh, yeah. You don't mind.
It's there to be read. Okay.
And just to let you know, Stephen's obviously gone in for the interview. We don't know how long he'll be in there. It'll probably be at least an hour. So I know some people have got to get off.
Well, the establishment is terrified of the size of our movement. We outnumber, in terms of protests, the pro-Zionist, pro-Israeli element by roughly 100 to 1. So it is our movement that is seen as a threat by the establishment. Moreover, we are opposing the policies of the British state and British imperialism, so that's bound to make us more of a target than those whose views are entirely consistent with the establishment. That will depend, the strength of our movement will determine the degree to which the state can get away with repressing it.
I think there is a long tradition
of protest movements carrying flowers against power. And I think Stephen and the other people, the other protesters, were carrying flowers. They were carrying flowers to the police. They were carrying flowers to show that we are peaceful protesters. And I think that the fact that this government doesn't understand, the fact that this government wants to support Israel and the genocide that Israel is perpetrating, in spite of the fact that Holocaust survivors and people carrying flowers are protesting, say something about the intentions of this government. Of course, there is a genocide, and the government and the BBC and all kinds of other institutions in this country are supporting the genocide. I have to say that the diplomatic representatives of other countries do have diplomatic immunity, and so it would be hard for the government to arrest them. Having said that, there are lots of other people, including the Prime Minister himself, who have been encouraging the Israelis to perpetrate the genocide. The Prime Minister does not enjoy diplomatic immunity, and he could certainly be arrested.
And the British government could ask for her to be recalled.
Possibly. I mean, I don't know the law, but yes, I would not be happy. I'm not happy that Israel has chosen such a representative. On the other hand, we must say that Hotovely does faithfully represent the ideology that holds this government up. And so, in a way, she is a good representative of a genocidal government. It would be hypocritical to have a nice person as an ambassador of a country which actually practices genocide and is an apartheid racist country. As an activist for Palestine, I'm playing a long game. We know many protest movements that went on for decades, including the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa. The whites in South Africa were defeated eventually after decades of activism by people both inside South Africa and outside South Africa. We are not only putting pressure on the government, we are only trying to grow the movement. We are trying to get more people who are currently sitting on the fence to realize the genocide that is happening under our eyes. And we will win. We will win at the end.
EDS.
Thank you very much. Sorry to call you, thank you very much. That was great.
Yeah, you're going to do 2 beats.
Go, Maureen! Go for it!
We won't be silenced. 3. Stop the embargo. Now. 1. We are the people. 2. We won't be silenced. 3. Anti-embargo. Now. 1. We are the people.
That they chose to act against a Holocaust survivor is extraordinary. And if you think about it, they wouldn't have had the gall to do that unless they'd actually, in some way or another, had some sort of indication or support from the main bodies of the Jewish establishment in this country. It just turned it upside down, and if it had been someone on the other side, for example, when the CAA held that demonstration outside the BBC, protesting about the showing of the documentary of children in Gaza, and if they'd have arrested someone in the leadership of that group, imagine the reaction of the Israeli lobby and the Jewish establishment organisations here. So of course it was with their agreement or nod or something. Well, it's just this program of collecting every detail they can of all the people who are active in opposition. I think they're filming and recording and documenting our movement in detail because they want those very full records of the opposition to the Israeli project, to the whole nature of Israel now. I mean, it actually hasn't changed its nature substantially from 1948, but it's become grossly exaggerated, and the religious Zionists have now taken leadership of the politics in Israel, and they're very oppressive and violent, and they spread their influence as widely as they can, and they're not strangers to violent removal of their opposition. It's nothing new from right-wing states.
I'm very suspicious of you.
I'm never suspicious. I'm never suspicious.
Yeah, that's why.
It's a great failing.
Yeah, but it's always the people who don't seem suspicious who actually are.
Oh well, we only live once. None of us get out of it alive. So just have to do what you can while you're here. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't do this, to be honest.
Even
Hello.
and Derek over there, one of us, the one with the big flag over there. Derek for 20 years is with me.
Give him a microphone so he can speak.
Give him a microphone.
Give him a microphone so he can speak.
Thank you, madam. He's not going to make any comment publicly at this point. I can speak on the microphone. He did very well.
Loud hailer, please.
He did very well in the interview. That is now over, thank God. And we will need to wait for the next stages of this investigation. I can't say anything more than that because there are still a number of other people to be interviewed in relation to the event.
Please give him the megaphone.
On January the 18th, and we do not wish to make any public comment about these matters.
Don't talk just to the cameras, we're all here.
While the investigation is going on.
Well, just give it to him.
That's all that I'm afraid we can say at the moment.
Thank you, Stephen.
Extremely grateful for all of the support that he has been given and no doubt will continue to be given. It's quite overwhelming, in fact, to see so many people out here and to feel all of the love and the warmth and the encouragement and the support from everyone. And I know he feels that very, very deeply.
With the amended statement. Not about 2 hours ago.
Oh, okay, no,
no, that's fine, as long as you know that I've done that. Okay.
Can I say that I bored them to death?
No, just no. Honestly, we need to just leave it all.
I wanted to get a quick sound back, Stephen, not related to anything to do with the case, just as generally the situation in Gaza and Palestine right now.
Sure.
Okay, where are you from?
Double Down News.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
would that be okay?
Thank you.
Let's just go just that way a little bit and do it. Anyway, let's get this shot. Sorry, I'm in your way as well, aren't I? Sorry, do you want to get card?
Once again, Stephen. Fantastic. Thumbs up. Victory sign. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
I'm intending to continue to attend all the big demonstrations on Saturdays, roughly once a month, as long as I can walk and do it. And at the moment there is no sign that immediately I would not be able to do it. So I will go. And my family, which I'm very proud of.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you.
Hi. Hello.
So, Stephen, I'm going to ask you a few general questions about.
Sure.
And where is Lloyd? So, Stephen, just looking straight into the camera for me.
Yeah.
This week, Israel has resumed its genocide. Your thoughts on this situation?
It's very difficult to talk about it because it is so painful. It's almost beyond comment that this can continue, and one cannot imagine what it could lead to. There is a defenseless people there out in the open, and they're being bombed. It's unbelievable. I don't think that any further thought is possible. You're just horrified that this is possible, and disgusted that all those who are enabled this to go on, all the enablers, the US, the various Western governments, including our own, etc.
And there seems to be in tandem a situation where the conflict, the genocide in Gaza, and the clampdown on free speech in the West is being amplified everywhere. We've seen it in America, we've seen it in the UK. Without going into specifics, what do you think about the government's clamping down on Palestinian protesters and everything else?
Well, I think it's a very dangerous slide towards complete authoritarian authoritarianism and even in the direction of fascism. We can see that in Germany and the US, where the suppression of protest and free speech is violent, and we had seen a little bit of a taste of it here as well. I don't want to go into detail, but we've seen it on screens, and I think we have to resist as much as possible, and we can only do so by ever increasing numbers.
And also in the States, you must have seen obviously with Mahmoud, who's been deported, green card holder.
Yeah.
What's your message to him and to people like him who've been protesting, who are facing these things?
Well, there is a huge international solidarity movement behind them. And
behind who? So if you could, my voice will be cut, so you could frame the question. So thoughts on Mahmoud in America, who's getting deported?
Yeah.
Or they're looking to deport.
Well, it's shocking. I think what I understand about that situation is that it goes right against any formal legality, and it just shows that this attack on free speech is disregarding laws, and it becomes at times violent.
And final question, obviously around the world, the Palestinian movement, it's big, it's massive, it's causing governments to react in very authoritarian ways.
Yes.
What does that say about the movement itself? Is it having an impact?
I think it does. I think there is a huge divide between the lawmakers and government and the people, and I think this is something that obviously is a great concern for the establishments all around the world, and they realize that the huge numbers which are against them are also electoral threat in the long run for them, and that partly explains perhaps why they are more desperate to try and extinguish any protest.
And in your thoughts, are you still thinking every day now about what's going on in Gaza and the situation there?
Well, yes, it's extraordinarily painful to watch innocent people being bombed again with these enormous 2,000-pound bombs, and again children are dying in large number. It's unbearable.
Thank you very much.
So can you tell us something about the legal situation?
No, I'm afraid I can't. No, I'm not going to comment at all on the legal situation with respect to the investigation against Stephen, any other of my clients or other people. It's just not appropriate when the investigation is ongoing that lawyers or clients should discuss any of it publicly. It's not helpful either to those already charged, to those who potentially could face charge. So in that respect,
has Stephen been charged now?
No, he hasn't, no. He's been interviewed today, and that's where it's reached at the moment, okay? And that's all I can say, I'm afraid, okay? Sorry.
Did they look at all embarrassed at having to interview an 87-year-old Holocaust survivor?
I don't really want to go into any of that.
Okay.
But they were perfectly
polite, definitely.
Yeah. But I really don't want to discuss any of it at the moment. There will be the time to speak, and I do. You know, we all appreciate the intense interest, as well as obviously the support, but the interest of people, and we understand why people have loads and loads of questions and want to understand what's happening to Stephen and to other people. But there will come a time when more information can be made available to people, okay?
Absolutely. Without going into any specifics, could I ask Stephen just how he feels about just the level of love and support that he's received coming here?
I mean,
well, I find that absolutely overwhelming.
What do you do? Sorry, my voice will be cut. Seeing people out here?
Yes, I am overwhelmed by the support and the solidarity that is shown, and I think that the activism in favor of the people of Gaza creates a kind of warm family in a way, and that's how I feel about it. And it's amazing.
for our website for independent TV.
You
so
are
there'll be a video.
Thank you very much.
We love you, Stephen.
Thank you.
We shall never walk alone, Stephen.
More power to you.
Our hearts are with you.
Thank you all you do.
And I'm sorry.
It's a shame on the mental is.
Really sorry.
Hey, I'm Tara. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, hi, Ken.
Hebe's just here. This is Hebe. She's just going to be filming, if you don't mind. Just a few questions.
Yeah.
It's not about the case.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, what is your response to Israel breaking the ceasefire this week and launching a fresh wave of attacks on Gaza?
Yeah. Well, I think it's horrifying, particularly that I don't think that the other side has given any cause or reason for this to happen. And it looks like a predetermined plan to continue with the ethnic cleansing and frankly the sort of the killing that's going on. It's unbearable to watch, and one wonders where it's leading to, because there is no defense to speak of. There are defenseless people out in the open. Their homes have been bombed to smithereens, and they are in tents, and now they are going to be bombed. I mean, it's unbearable, and I don't understand how the world can stand it. And I'm ashamed of our government and everybody else who facilitates it and enables it.
If you could speak to the UK government right now, what would you say to them?
Well, that they should, at the very minimum, condemn Israel's actions, which they don't do, and immediately stop all supplies of armaments and any other logistical and information support that they do give with flights from Akrotiri and so on. All that should be stopped immediately, because there is no doubt about this being an atrocity and international crime, what's going on and what's perpetrated by Israel. So how can you hesitate in the face of that?
You've attended countless pro-Palestine marches. Are you going to continue marching, and what has been and continues to be your message as you march?
Well, yes, of course, I am going to continue, and I am very proud that my family, my son and sometimes grandchildren also come. And I think we just have to do what we can and try and talk to our neighbors and people we know to increase the numbers, because I think that's all we can do, by exerting pressure through numbers to make it clear that all this will have electoral consequences, because that's what they react to.
And then finally, as a Holocaust survivor, what do you think your voice in particular brings to the campaign for peace?
Well, I think it is an important disapproval of the various lies perpetrated by Israel and the Zionists that claim that there is a solid support from all Jews towards what's going on, the genocide, and it's completely untrue, and we are there to prove it that it's untrue. And in fact, the majority of secular Jews, for example, don't support the right-wing Jewish organizations like the Board of Deputies, and they don't speak for the whole so-called Jewish community. There is no such thing. There are separate factions and groups, and probably the half, if not the majority, are left-leaning and against the genocide, definitely. That's one thing. The other, we are there to show that these marches are not hate marches, and certainly not hateful against Jews as such, because we are there with our placards showing that who we are, and we are very warmly embraced all the time. And it's a very opposite of hate marches. There are families there, and the atmosphere is always friendly and loving. It's a very opposite of what it's claimed to be. And finally, we are there to show that these marches are not no-go areas for Jews, which is again claimed. It's again exact opposite is true.
Thank you, Stephen. Is there anything else that you would like to say?
No, I think that's about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
One quick question.